our vacancy rate's too high. So there could be that risk. Oracle has not hit my radar yet, even though they're doing better. So yeah, that could be one of the first weakness points out there, and that would generate bad press. But we're 3 years from that because the pipeline's just unbelievable.
You know, the federal government is investing in some of these some companies. Do you recommend people following them? Do you think people should watch?
Yeah, I do. Obviously, it ensures their success, but I can tell you on MP Materials there was some earnings cuts, so it didn't hit my radar, so I didn't buy it. I think the most exciting thing it was just disclosed that Trump owns a lot of these stocks. The people he put on Air Force One that went to China apparently he owned a lot of them. He owned Eli Lilly, which is very exciting. They're onshoring the drugs in America, and they've got a good drug pipeline. Does he own Micron? He's praising the Micron gentleman because they're building their new plants in America. Obviously, he and Jensen Huang are buddies. Okay, he owns NVIDIA, so I'm sure he owns Palantir and a lot of these other stocks. I haven't checked the list. We're busy trying to see, but I was shocked how many of my stocks that Trump owned. Okay. So I was very grateful he did that. I thought he was a real estate guy. I like, well, what do you mean Trump owns all these stocks? So so this was a big surprise, and I think it helps the whole market.
Now, in terms of the general economy, last time we talked to you, you were very bullish. You said GDP will grow significantly. Do you have the same outlook for this year?
Yeah, so I was on Maria's show on Fox in December, and I said we would hit 5% GDP growth. And then Howard Lutnick one up me. He said we'd hit 6, and I actually talked to Howard about that at Mar-a-Lago. We just happened to be there at the same time, so I came up, and our kids went to school together, so we knew each other. And Howard assured me we would hit 6. And I think that's going to happen no later than the third quarter of this year, and that's coming from unbelievable onshoring. You've done all kinds of wonderful shows about the onshoring boom in America. So that's definitely underway. Automotive, drugs, anything we manufacture. There was all this sub-assembly being done in Mexico and Vietnam, and they're trying to bring as much of it here as possible because China was diverting their orders through different countries. And that's huge. AI could be up to 4% in GDP, okay, because of the productivity gains. The trade deficit is obviously shrinking because of what happened in the Middle East and the Strait of Hormuz. So now I personally loved it when Trump says, well, you want some oil, just go to the Gulf of America. And the 121 tankers were going there to fill up. Obviously, we provide Europe with natural gas now, okay? So the problem in Qatar hurt more Asia and stuff when we got their gas. So, yeah, just the energy exports alone. But Howard Lutnick's a fascinating character. He told Mercedes, like, can you just move to America? Because the EU is hurting all the automotive companies. They're telling them how to make cars. So they're forced to make hybrid cars now that are extra heavy. And they're forcing them to make electric cars, and they can't compete with the Chinese cars. And as I talked to you, we have this big brouhaha over the Ferrari electric car. It's a nice car, okay? It's just $650,000. I think if it was $100,000, we might pay attention to it. You know what I mean? It's beautiful designs, the Apple designer. But the EU's forcing these companies to do things they don't have to do. They shouldn't have to do. And so the American car companies are just don't have these rules, The other thing is they have to make the cars quieter. So they're putting all these particulate filters. And so like a Corvette in America has to be quieted when it goes to Europe, okay? And even when it's running around the Nürburgring, it's got filters on it because they don't want to ruin the noise of the forest. Just move your production to America. I'm sorry. Also, we have the cheap electricity, and we got 5-7 states that will just throw incentives at you to move here. So the BMW's biggest plant's in South Carolina. Mercedes is huge in Alabama. Tennessee, Alabama, Georgia, um, South Carolina. They're just begging for business. So this is part of the onshoring that's going on. The BMW trucks that are made in South Carolina have German parts, so they all replace all those with American parts. I have a friend who's got over 100 UAW workers. He's a big supplier. He thinks it's all great because they all have to onshore now versus...
Does he see the business boom in his company?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he's an injected molding guy. Yeah, he makes all the speaker grills in almost every car. And they do a lot more than just that. He doesn't work for Volkswagen yet. Volkswagen has a plant in Chattanooga, but he supplies Hyundai and Ford and everything. In fact, his company's in Dearborn, so that's where Ford's headquartered. So there's a lot of exciting things. Ford's also interesting. They took their contacts with CATL. Now they're building big commercial power walls, just like Tesla does. And so that's a booming business for Ford, and their valuation's starting to go up. So it's interesting how companies reinvent themselves.
Louis Navalier, it was great to have you back on Market Insider.
Thank you.
Introducing the Crest Live Soothing Herbal Eye Patches. It comes with 30 pairs and can be used to help combat tired and strained eyes. The natural herbal formula provides a cooling, minty, and refreshing effect that stimulates natural tears and awakens your tired eyes. Placing the eye patches around your eyes helps to reduce dryness and massages acupuncture points. They can be worn while reading, studying, using electronics, and provide hours of long-lasting relief.
Hi, my name is Brady. When I was born, my parents thought everything was okay. My mom and dad were so excited to take me home.
I still get goosebumps. Your trusted, in-depth reporting. Now you can get NTD Evening News direct from your TV with Roku. From key U.S. headlines to global events shaping our world. News like it used to be. Search NTD on Roku, add the channel, and catch the day's latest stories right in your living room.
I'm Arian Pastar in South America, Brazil, and we are NTD News.
Welcome to NTD Evening News. Our top story tonight, a hot U.S. economy despite the conflict in Iran. What's in the latest jobs report as President Trump vows to bring costs down, and what the president is revealing about his mandate for the incoming intelligence chief. Federal authorities announced they have launched multiple election fraud investigations into California. The probes come as election officials continue processing and counting outstanding ballots from this week's primary election. New Corona reports. Nearly 40 ships have transited the Strait of Hormuz successfully with the assistance from the U.S. Navy. Is this the beginning of a new trend? We'll speak with NTD Senior Military National Security Analyst Mike Sorelli. An artificial intelligence company, Anthropic, once again calling attention to AI's potential danger to humankind, saying that self-improving AI could soon develop faster than humans can manage the risks. Jason Perry reports. And the FIFA World Cup starting soon. To prepare for the influx of fans and international visitors, authorities are highlighting their safety efforts. David Lamb brings us more from California.
This is NTD Evening News, live from our global headquarters in New York City. Here's Carrie Dunst.
Good evening. Thank you for joining us tonight. U.S. labor market staying strong amid the war in Iran. President Trump touting his economic policies while calling on the central bank to lower interest rates. Joining us now live is NTD's White House correspondent Iris Tao. Good evening, Iris. What's the jobs report telling us today?
Good evening to you as well, Carrie. So today we had a big jobs report as the Labor Department reporting that the U.S. economy last month added 172,000 new jobs, and that's despite economists' forecasts previously saying that they were expecting around 85,000 only. The unemployment rate staying steady at around 4.3%. The White House today crediting the economic news to the Trump administration's policies, saying that it's because of President Trump's tax policies, including no tax on overtime, no tax on tips, as well as the One Big Beautiful Bill, that is having a positive effect on supply. And President Trump speaking in Wisconsin just moments ago, saying that it shows that the U.S. economy is still on a solid footing despite the conflict in Iran, which he says the U.S. will come out of very quickly. Let's take a look.
These are the strongest job numbers of the entire administration so far, and that's during this conflict on top of it. The midterms are coming up, and I hope you people are really spiritized because we're at a point we're going to come out of Iran very quickly, and it's going to be very strong, one way or the other, whether it's a piece of paper or the very tough way.
And today's new jobs numbers also comes amid positive numbers earlier this week about the overall jobs market, including, for example, numbers suggesting that a U.S. manufacturing sector has started to rebound. It also comes amid news that the Labor Department earlier this week saying that the job opening numbers across the U.S. have skyrocketed back in April. Meanwhile, positive economic news could also mean concerns for inflation, as the Federal Reserve would want to control the growth to stem inflation. Now, President Trump is saying that he believes that a U.S. economy should be able to grow instead of being stymied. Here's what he said today.
You don't have to have inflation by having growth. We have great growth, and that doesn't mean inflation. In fact, it could be anti-inflation growth. So I hope the market starts to learn that when you have good numbers, the market should go up, not down. Decision. I'd like to see lower interest rates.
And now the roundtable in Wisconsin with President Trump as well as dairy farmers is still ongoing. President Trump is there to tout his economic policies benefiting farmers and ranchers across the country, including by cutting red tape for the agricultural industry and bringing down costs for farmers, including for equipment and other elements. President Trump vowing to bring down the cost of fertilizers in particular once the conflict is over with Iran.
In my first year back in the Oval Office, average farm incomes for agricultural producers in our country have skyrocketed by more than 20%. Now, it's been over the last couple of months since we went in for the military operation. You've seen fertilizer go up and you've seen energy go up. It's going to come down to where it was or lower. You'll be very happy.
And in other news, President Trump today also outlining his mandate for the incoming Director of National Intelligence, Bill Pulte. And President Trump saying in an interview with the Wall Street Journal that he wants him to start the process of mass firing of employees within the DNI office. President Trump saying that he believes that the agency is too bloated and that he believes, quote, there are a lot of people in there that shouldn't be there. President Trump also making clear that Pulte is only in there for the temporary position as acting DNI, and he's now interviewing 5 people at least at the White House for a permanent position. Back to you.
Thank you, Iris. Next, the Senate passes a $70 billion immigration enforcement package after an overnight vote-a-rama on Capitol Hill. The bill funds ICE and Border Patrol through the remainder of President Trump's second term, and now it heads to the House.
About time.
For this vote, the yeas are 52, the nays are 47. This bill, as amended, is passed.
Senator Lisa Murkowski was the only Republican to vote against the measure after 18
These
hours.
dinosaurs need to be put out the pasture.
Including one targeting a proposed Justice Department anti-weaponization fund and another aimed at blocking construction of the White House ballroom. The legislation follows months of partisan clashes over immigration enforcement and homeland security funding. The bill was passed through reconciliation. That's the process that allows for a simple majority, meaning no support from Democrats was needed to pass it through the Senate. Now that ICE and CBP funding has passed the Senate without a few controversial amendments, will it meet any hiccups when it goes to the House? Analysis tonight on Capitol Report at 7 p.m. Eastern, just after evening news. In a push to prevent unlawful employment of illegal immigrants, the Treasury Department is asking financial institutions to detect and report such activities. The department says hiring people without work authorization can make employers gain an unfair advantage over legitimate businesses, depress wages, facilitate identity theft, and steal tax revenue. It says unlawful wages can also be used to finance transnational criminal organizations. Treasury is asking banks to be vigilant against schemes to pay unlawful workers. The advisory today lists several red flags, such as individuals and companies in the agriculture, construction, domestic service, and hospitality industries registering that use a foreign ID. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent says, quote, "This administration will not allow illegal aliens to abuse financial institutions to steal billions from hardworking American taxpayers." And 48 people have been charged in a major drug trafficking bust in Texas. Authorities say illegal drug ingredients are being shipped from China to Mexican cartels, who then manufacture the drugs and smuggle them across the U.S. border. An ongoing problem lawmakers and law enforcement are working to stop. NTD correspondent Jason Blair brings us more.
The precursor chemicals come from China. They're built in labs, or they're manufactured in Mexico, and then they're coming across the border.
48 individuals have been charged in a large-scale drug trafficking takedown involving federal, state, and local law enforcement in Texas. This includes 24 alleged drug dealers with high-volume drug conspiracy-related charges, primarily involving methamphetamine, and 24 individuals for other felony and misdemeanor charges.
It really is an international network, and that's why we're all here fighting this together.
Over the course of the 18-month operation, authorities seized more than 35 kilograms of methamphetamine, 303 grams of cocaine, and 10 firearms in the Concho Valley of West Texas.
I also want to be clear, this is just the start of our presence in the Concho Valley.
The ongoing issue of the Chinese Communist Party aiding the drug cartels in Mexico has been discussed by federal and local authorities. On Thursday, the House Foreign Affairs Subcommittee on East Asia and the Pacific held a hearing on the topic.
While Mexican cartels manufacture and traffic the final product, the deadly supply chain starts and is engineered in China. This is not happening without Beijing's knowledge. The Chinese government subsidizes the export of at least 17 deadly chemicals that have no legal use.
Authorities say the takedown in Texas delivers a major blow to international drug trafficking networks targeting the U.S. And as the U.S. Attorney stated, even more arrests are coming. Reporting in Washington, D.C., Jason Blair, NTD News.
And President Trump is turning up the heat on global slave labor. His administration is proposing new tariffs on dozens of countries, including allies, for failing to crack down on forced labor in their supply chains. NTD's Washington correspondent Jack Bradley brings us more.
The Trump administration is cracking down on slave labor, proposing at least a 10% tariff on dozens of countries for failing to stop using products made with forced labor. The administration says not only is this practice immoral, but it puts bad actors at an economic advantage.
After doing an investigation, we found that many countries either did not have laws to prevent trade in goods made with forced labor, or if they did have the laws, they weren't effectively enforcing them. This is an unfair trading practice we think distorts global trade.
It is also, unfair competition for our companies to have to compete against someone who has free labor, basically compelled and forced labor.
The U.S. is seeking to impose a 10% tariff on major economies like the European Union, Mexico, and Canada, all of which have prohibitions on forced labor, but the U.S. Trade Representative says they haven't been enforcing it. Dozens of other countries without that face a 12.5%
sucking up to
tariff,
China,
including China, India, and Vietnam, among several others. The U.S. has laws banning the import of any goods made even partly with slave labor. There's also the bipartisan Uyghur Forced Labor Prevention Act, which presumes all products made in China's westernmost region of Xinjiang are made with slave labor. But when it comes to getting other countries to comply...
And I would imagine that China's I know that they put tremendous amount of pressures on countries around the world not to comply.
All of this is raising the alarm of forced labor, and one of the biggest perpetrators is China.
90% of China's cotton come from the slave labor areas of the Xinjiang province. That's 20% of the global cotton supply.
Former NBA star Ines Kanter-Freedom says that while the NBA claims to care for past slavery in the U.S., it turns a blind eye to current slavery happening in China today.
All these players are now taking, hundreds of millions of dollars by these shoe companies that are linked with the slave labor and sweatshops.
Right now, this tariff proposal is going into public hearings next month before a final decision is made. For NTD News Washington, I'm Jack Bradley.
Russian President Vladimir Putin today responding to an open letter from Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky. Zelensky is requesting a direct meeting with Putin, suggesting the U.S. is too busy with the Iran war to negotiate peace between Russia and Ukraine. NTD's international correspondent Arian Pazdar has the latest on the Russia-Ukraine war.
I think it would be great if they should get it done.
President Trump on Thursday and again on Friday saying he supports a meeting between Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky and Russia's Vladimir Putin. Zelensky sent a lengthy open letter to Putin this week. Just shortly after Ukraine bombed St. Petersburg during a major economic forum, Zelensky started the letter by saying that many Ukrainians liked Putin when he first came into power over 20 years ago. But then he went on to state that now the overwhelming majority of Ukrainians view it positively that our long-range drones paid a visit to the opening of your forum in St. Petersburg. Zelensky went on to suggest that Ukraine could launch more such attacks, while adding that Russia's resources are shrinking. That's partly why he's now proposing to hold direct talks, adding that we see that the United States is fully focused on the issue of Iran, and it would be wrong to simply wait until the war in Europe returns to the center of its attention. Putin responded on Friday, saying he sees no reason to meet with Zelensky at this time. The Kremlin leader added that he doesn't think Zelensky is actually seeking a meeting, saying the letter is more offensive than it is genuine. Before the news of the letter broke, Putin said this.
The proposals put forward by President Trump, as I have already said, could well be the basis of a peace settlement.
But it's not clear what proposals Putin is talking about.
What were the compromises that you asked?
Well, I'd rather not say, because Peter asked me. I think it was meant as a little wise guy question, but I'm not sure. But I'm very responsible when that happens. It's going to happen. They're going to both make compromises. I suggested those compromises.
The president didn't comment on the allegations that the U.S. is too busy with Iran to broker peace in Ukraine.
Will expose Putin's weakness.
The former foreign minister of Ukraine commenting on the timing of Zelensky's request for a meeting.
To do it against the background of a successful Ukrainian attack on targets in St. Petersburg, on mounting energy crisis, and in the middle of the most important international gathering hosted by Russia, the St. Petersburg Economic Forum.
He added that Zelensky's main message in the request is that time is on Ukraine's side. Arian Pastar, NTD News.
Next, artificial intelligence company Anthropic is once again sounding the alarm on AI and its potential danger to humankind. The company is now calling on the AI industry to slow down, as self-improving AI systems could soon develop faster than humans can manage the risks. NTD's Jason Perry has the latest.
Artificial intelligence company Anthropic warning that AI systems could soon begin improving themselves faster than society can manage the risks. Anthropic, creator of the Claude AI system, says that AI's ability to complete tasks on its own has been doubling about every 4 months, and that AI could soon reach something called recursive self-improvement, meaning that the technology could soon be able to improve itself without any human intervention. In a blog post on Thursday titled, "When AI Builds Itself," Anthropic says that could increase the risk of humans losing control over AI systems. noting in particular that if systems are capable of fully building their own successors, the ways we secure them, monitor them, and shape their behavior all grow much more important. But at the moment, it appears that research scientists are still trying to learn why AI acts the way it does. For example, when Anthropic gave AI control of a fake email account, the AI program discovered in the emails that it was about to be deleted. In response, the AI attempted to blackmail the only person who could stop the shutdown by sending him an email threatening to expose his affair with a coworker.
Okay, so that seems concerning. If it has no thoughts, it has no feelings, why does it want to preserve itself?
That's kind of why we're doing this work, is to figure out what is going on here, right?
Anthropic is now calling on major artificial intelligence companies to consider a pause in development to allow researchers to gain a better understanding of the potential societal harms that self-improving AI could unleash, but that could be difficult to achieve among industry competitors. Anthropic co-founder Jack Clark compares the situation to the arms race.
Look, we've done this before in the height of the Cold War under highly tense situations between rivalrous countries. They found ways to stabilize aspects of the nuclear arms race. All of this has been done before in other domains.
Anthropic adding that researchers also need to find a way for humans to intervene if things get out of hand.
But when I look down at the car we're driving, all I have is a gas pedal. I don't have a brake pedal. And surely at some point in the future we might want that option.
Jason Perry, NTD News.
Coming up, federal prosecutors say multiple election fraud investigations are underway in California. The announcement comes